changes.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome into the channel. I'm recording this on the weekend, July 17th. Hopefully I can get this out by the 18th. I always see in the Facebook groups a lot of people putting out a lot of myths, a lot of not factual information about Goodwill and thrift stores, but Goodwill in particular. So we hear about the myths all the time. Is Goodwill a nonprofit or a for-profit company? Is Goodwill CEOs and executives paid millions and millions of dollars? They make all the money and keep all the profits. Do the Goodwill stores actually put money into helping the less fortunate, the needy, the programs? What is it that they do? Do Goodwill stores give employees prime picks, like they go in and selectively pull out all the good stuff so they can buy it or take it home themselves and sell it or keep it? Does Goodwill give them discounts when they buy stuff? Does Goodwill go on eBay and jack up prices and searching? These are all a lot of questions we always hear, so I thought that it was a good idea if I just went right to the source and brought it up on my screen, and we will take a look at all of these Goodwills, fact versus fiction, the truth and behind the scenes of Goodwill. Why not? Because everybody always asks these questions, and whenever it pops up in Facebook groups, you guys can save and bookmark this video here, and you can share it with whoever's asking these questions, because I'm going to give you guys the straight poop, the real factual information about the truth of how Goodwill operates and what it is they do. But the one thing I want to say before we jump over to that screen is always remember Goodwill is a business. Regardless of all the rest of the information you're about to get, they're in the business of making money, right? And Goodwill does not exist in order to help you make a profit. So if you make a profit off Goodwill, that's fantastic. But don't just rely, just like anything else, don't put your eggs all in one basket. Don't rely on just Goodwill. And also don't expect that just because you're in a Goodwill that you are necessarily going to be able to make a profit every single time. So with that said, let's jump over the screen and check out the truth of Goodwill. As always, guys, make sure you support Kane Industries Fashions down below the eBay store of our small seller of the day. I do this every day in July. I'll be doing it the rest of the month. The link is down there along with his amazing store. You can make sure to follow that store and possibly buy something to help support small sellers during summer slowdown. We really appreciate it. If you send me something that you screenshot of what you bought, I'll make sure I shout you out on all my social medias as well. Let's jump into Goodwill Industries here. All right, so this is Goodwill Industries' actual Wikipedia page listing, and it is 100% factual. You can find this on any other page as well. So Goodwill was founded in 1902. It's 119 years old, out of Boston. The Reverend Edgar J. Helms was the founder, and its headquarters are actually in Rockville, Maryland, not far from where I grew up. 15810 Indianola Drive in Durwood, Maryland. It's actually a Rockville address, though. They do service 16 countries, and Stephen C. Preston is the current president and CEO, and their revenue, their operating revenue, that means gross sales, was $6.1 billion in 2018. They haven't updated 2019 or 20 yet. There is the president and CEO of Goodwill Industries. He has been there as the Goodwill Industries. I believe he's working on, and maybe I could be wrong, but I think he joined Goodwill. Let's just scroll down before I even take a guess at this. I was going to say just 2 years. Yes, 2019. So a little more than 2 years he has been in office with the Goodwill as CEO. So let's go back. Goodwill is stylized as Goodwill with a G, is an American nonprofit 501c3 organization. That means they are a non-profit, right? 501c3 organization, nonprofit. Okay, let's continue to read. They provide job training, employment placement services, other community-based programs for people who have barriers preventing them from otherwise obtaining a job. That's disabled, handicapped, that's former convicted felons, things like that. Okay. Additionally, Goodwill Industries may hire veterans and individuals who lack education or job experience or face employment challenges. Goodwill is funded by a massive network of retail thrift stores which operate as nonprofits as well. Goodwill operates in South Korea, Venezuela, Brazil, Mexico, Panama, Uruguay, the United States, and Canada. 156 local Goodwills in the United States and Canada. It slowly expanded from its founding in 1902. In fiscal year 2018, which ended 2019, Goodwill organizations generated a total of $6.1 billion in revenue, of which $5.27 billion was spent on charitable services. So, out of 6.1, I mean, this is really easy math. They spent 5.27 over 6.1. They spent 86.4% of their revenues on charitable services. That's the job placements. That's things that they don't have to do. They choose to do that, right? The other $800 million, right? $800 million is what they didn't spend. 646 of that went to salaries and other operating expenses. And so what does that mean? That means the CEO, the executive team, the managers, all of those people and the people that run these stores made $646 million in salary plus the operating expenses. So for a company like Goodwill, the operating expenses would basically cover things like the electric bill. That store might have a $5,000 electric bill and you have 100 stores. So, 100 stores at $5,000 over the course of a year, they're paying out, let's see if I can do simple math here, $5,000 bill times 100 stores, and I don't know, 500,000 times 12 months. They could be spending millions of dollars a year, $6 million, $10 million a year just on their electric bill, their water, their utilities. They've probably got buildings that they own that are property taxes. They've got fuel for their trucks. We see all their trucks driving around, right? So all of that is operating expense. The $646 million on salaries, we don't know what percentage of that went to salary and what percentage of that went to operating expense. I would imagine it's probably a clean split or pretty close, totally guessing. So as we scroll down here, ABC correspondent Yvette Rios partnered with Goodwill in 2012 to help appeal to the Latin American market. Form 990, filed by the Goodwill Industries, listed the 2017 salary of CEO James Gibbons, who was before Stephen C. Preston, at $598,300 with an additional compensation, which I think was bonuses, of $118,000. And so that was 2017. So that guy made $598,000, and he made another $118,000 in bonuses or whatever. So a little over $716,000 for the year. A substantial paycheck. That's a $60,000 a month paycheck. I think any of us could live with that, no doubt about it. Millions? No. Did he get stock options? We don't know if they get stock options, so that could be worth more money. But definitely a solid, healthy paycheck with a bonus. So, he's making $50,000 a month on pay, and then he gets a $118,000 bonus. He gets what a lot of people make for their whole year in a bonus. So pretty solid. But the truth is, they are a nonprofit. The truth is, that salary is an operating cost is allowed to be paid out to these executives. They do make really good money, but not millions and millions. We just seen that 86% of their revenue was spent on charitable sources. And then we know that the other 14%, at least some part of it, $300 or $400 million, went to fuel and property taxes and electric. They can't really operate without that. So somewhere around $5.6 billion, which if we redo the math, 5.6 over their 6.1 revenue means about 92% of all dollars they make went to paying for the services they provide and their operating expenses. So only 8 to 10% of their revenues go to paying the people that run the company. It gives you a brief, operation of the history. It gives you all of the donate movements, the donation policies. They do have a lot of donation policies, of course, hazardous materials and whatnot. And then executive compensation. So in 2005, the Goodwill Industries of the Columbia, Portland, Oregon branch came under scrutiny due to executive compensation that the Oregon Attorney's General Office concluded was unreasonable. So if you're unfamiliar with 501c3 companies, you can pay your executives a salary, the people running the company, but it has to be reasonable. You can't go giving somebody $10 million simply because that money came in donations or donated goods. The president of the Portland branch, Michael Miller, received $838,000 for fiscal year 2004. And see, that's the problem. He was making more money than the CEO. And this was reportedly out of line in comparison to other charity executives that placed him in the top 1% of American wage earners. So not only do they compare Goodwill has regions, Portland, Southeast. Not only do they compare your executives and all your management's salaries to each other to make sure it's fair and reasonable. You can't make more than the CEO of the company when you're only running one section. But they also compare you to other industries like similar stores and companies and industries in the nation to see where you're falling. If all the Goodwills and Salvation Armies and mom and pops in this are paying their executives $500,000 and all of a sudden somebody else pays their executive $5 million, it's not a good look and they want it to be even. I don't know who decides that, but that's just the way that it goes. After being confronted with the state's findings, Miller agreed to take a 24% reduction in pay, and they formed a new committee. Now, the problem with that is, okay, so he just lost $200,000, in pay. He's down to $638, still making really good money, but he's already made the $838. These, people with hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in the bank, taking a pay cut, they're like, okay, that sucks, but I'm still good to go. I don't have to wake up tomorrow and figure out how to pay the bills or pay for food. They're still good to go. And yeah, they're running a nationwide store, so they deserve to make a fair wage. But is $838,000 or $600,000 or $700,000 fair? Who are we to decide, right? Who do we decide? In 2013, on watchdog.org, they reported that Goodwill's tax returns showed that more than 100 Goodwills pay less than the minimum wage while simultaneously paying more than $53.7 million, that's part of that $600 million, in compensation to top executives. Douglas Barr, the former CEO of the Goodwill of Southern California, was the highest paid Goodwill executive in the country. He received total compensation worth $1.18 million, including the base salary of $350 and bonuses worth $87. So he was getting $430,000 worth of base salary and bonuses. His retirement benefits were $71, so that put him up to $500. His other $637,000 was reportable compensation. That means they gave him stock options, they gave him pensions, they gave him bonuses, whatever it may have been. In 2011, Columbia Willamette Goodwill, one of the largest in the country, says it paid $922,000 in commissary wages to approximately 250 people with developmental disabilities. These employees worked 159,000 hours for an average hourly wage of $5.78. The lowest paid worker received just $1.40 per hour. That's where these problems come in. You have to pay people fairly. Goodwill Industries International has been criticized by some for using a provision of federal labor law to pay workers with disabilities less than the federal minimum wage. Under Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Acts of 1938, organizations can obtain a special wage certificate to pay workers with disabilities a commensurate wage based on performance evaluations. Of Goodwill's 105,000 employees, 7,300 are paid under the special wage certificate program. The National Federation of the Blind considers it unfair, discriminatory, and amoral. Other disability rights advocates have defended Goodwill's use of the special wage certificate to employ workers with disabilities. Terry Farmer, CEO of ACC-SES, a trade group that calls itself the voice of disability, said scrapping the provision could force disabled workers to stay at home. So in 2008, the CEO of Rich Kantz of Goodwill Northern New England put out a video addressing the false think before you donate rumors that alleged owner Mark Curran profits $2.3 million a year from the organization, that no money was going to charity. In the statement, he says that Goodwill N&E does in fact give to charity and works to provide resources for brain injury rehabilitation centers and those with disabilities and veterans seeking work. Further, the website states that Mark Curran is not the owner or CEO. As of 2020, Stephen Preston is the CEO of Goodwill Industries International and has to report to a volunteer board of directors. In 2020, the stores in New England still run a voiceover during shopping hours that reiterates this message to shoppers. The claims appeared in a longer email covering several for-profit, nonprofit organizations, which was debunked by Snopes. So long story short, they are a nonprofit. These guys do make healthy paychecks, but not millions and millions of dollars like we would be led to think. Okay, this is another like truth versus myth that we see all the time on or about Goodwill. Do the employees get a discount, or do they, even better yet, get first dibs on merchandise? And you're going to find a lot of answers that are different. But pretty much if you find answers that are within the last couple of years, it's all the same that I see. I see older answers where people say yes, they do get dibs, but mostly the newer ones, no. So this person, Selena Harriman from 3 years ago, says they have a rule that it has to be out on the floor for 24 hours before you can buy it. And she's a sorter at Goodwill Industries since 2012. So 3 years ago, 18, she was there for like 6 years. However, certain things can't be sold at Goodwill, so you can get those items, like a wind chime she says that she bought because it was in pieces. When you scroll down, Amy Botan was a former processor at a donation center attendant at Goodwill for what looks like 26 years. I worked at Goodwill in Albuquerque for over 25 years, and setting aside items to buy later, also known as routing, is strictly, it should have said forbidden, but verboten. The management has zero tolerance, and routing will put the offender on the fast track out the door. The problem becomes so serious, employees could only shop at the Goodwill store on their days off. Management also took away the employee 25% discount as icing on the cake. This is only the tip of the iceberg policy-wise. So she says no, again, 3 years ago. And that is pretty much, this is Donna Hart in Lawrenceville, Georgia from 10 months ago. I hope this isn't typical of Goodwill stores, but we had a friend who got a DUI and the judge gave him several weeks of community service. He was assigned to help unload donations as people drove in. He told us that if they spotted anything good, they would put it in a pile designated as trash. When they took the trash out to the dumpster, they put the good stuff in their own cars. How low can you get? And so obviously that is against the law as well. That's stealing. Employees put stuff aside for other people, so that does happen. But again, it's against Goodwill's actual policy. You're not allowed to do this. This one from just a few months ago said, yes, they do. I have a friend that worked at Goodwill in Arizona. She and her coworkers always took what they wanted as the items came in before they tagged them for the floor. If the item was already on the floor, they only paid $1 for it. But all these things that you see, we can go over to the second one. This one is from 2012. This is exactly why some regions will not allow their staff to purchase. Donations are to go to the floor first, but they weren't. And they just talk about this, that like Goodwill, you have to read and sign their policies. You don't get first dibs. This one from 2015. Yes, we get first dibs. We work hard for the charity. But I don't think that is the case. So they definitely aren't supposed to do it. Myth number 2. All right, the last topic I want to cover is, does Goodwill price things based on eBay? In fact, they do. They actually have their own eBay stores. So if you didn't see in the last section of this video, there are 163 odd Goodwill regions. So like Portland has a Goodwill, Southeast Florida, Gulf Coast Florida, Space Coast Florida. I think there's 4 or 5 just here in Florida. So there's 163 across the country. If I remember right, California has like 30 or 40 of them. So all over the nation, they each operate individually, kind of separate of the rest of their sections. But when you go on Goodwill, or excuse me, when you go on eBay and you look up Goodwill, you will find 58 results. Now, some of these are like just Goodwill 2020, a normal everyday eBayer. Don't know who that is, but some are DC Goodwill Retail Store. And you can click on that and you will find the DCGW store has almost 100,000 feedback. And you can click on their store name here and you can click on items for sale. And they don't currently have anything for sale, and you can go to solds and they have nothing in solds, right? So we can come all the way back and we can look up Goodwill Central Coast Collectibles. They have 493 items for sale. So you can see Goodwill is absolutely selling stuff and pricing with eBay that they get in as donations. And sometimes they price their stuff that they put on the store shelf as though it was on eBay. So this is something that is true. They're absolutely using eBay. Not all of them, but most of them. And that's why you can see kind of where the money is coming from, where they're selling stuff. Good stuff that comes through the door never makes it on the store shelves. So just something to keep in mind when you are shopping at the Goodwill stores. So hopefully this video cleared up a lot of truths and myths and information for you about Goodwill. If there's anything you want to add to that, the comment section below this video belongs to all of you, my viewers, so please use it. I don't delete comments. I don't filter them. I don't review them for hold. They only get deleted if you put something really bad and YouTube's algorithm grabs it and deletes it. So please use those comments below. I appreciate seeing them. I read them all, even if I can't respond to all of them. So definitely do leave a comment. If you have anything to add, questions, comments, concerns, or information, I'll be happy to have it. As always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for future videos, and support our small seller down in the description box, Kane Enterprise Clothing and Accessories. All of their eBay items are linked in the eBay store, along with all the rest of the links from List Perfectly, Reseller Genie, Mark II, our CPA, and my training package. Everything is down there in the description box. Click see more and check them all out. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time.